Hello and welcome to today's webinar, The Changing Face of Technical Compliance, Trends, Risks and Tools. I'm Jack Halliday and I'll be guiding you through today's session. As regulatory frameworks for gambling continue to evolve, technical compliance has never been more important, not just for operators, but for suppliers and regulators as well. Over the next 30 minutes, our experts will explore the latest developments shaping this space, including shifting standards, new industry challenges, and a first look at the enhanced Vixio Technical Compliance Tool. Before we get started, just a few quick housekeeping notes. We encourage you to get involved, so send your questions, share your thoughts, and make the most of the live chat. If you do experience any technical issues, whether that's audio or video, just drop a message in the chat box and our support team will be happy to help. And finally, today's session is being recorded. You'll receive a copy in your inbox shortly after the webinar, so don't worry if you'd like to revisit the content later. Now, I'm delighted to hand over to today's moderator, James Kilsby, the Chief Analyst at Vixio, who will be leading the discussion alongside Technical Compliance Specialist Roger Cowan. James, over to you.
Okay, well, good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are. We are here today to talk about technical compliance, specifically Vixio's newly expanded technical compliance tool, but we are going to share some observation and trends from Vixio's monitoring of technical compliance changes and also some surveys we've conducted of the industry, and showcase an expanded version of our technical compliance tool that we're launching today. I'm James Kilsby, Chief Analyst with Vixio Regulatory Intelligence, and I'm going to be joined by Roger Cowan, Vixio's Technical Compliance Specialist. Roger, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thank you, James. Good to be here. I'm, as James said, Technical Compliance Specialist for Vixio. So it's myself and the team that have been putting the information together.
Jack, if you can just move us on. I'm sure many of you joining us today are existing clients of Vixio's, and we appreciate you as always. But if you don't know Vixio, we are a leading RegTech provider that provides insights and analysis, regulatory information and market data on the regulated gaming industry globally. You'll learn over the course of today that roughly a year ago, we launched a dedicated technical compliance tool that you can just see in the corner of your screen. You'll get a closer up view in a moment. But our technical compliance tool provides breaks out the specific technical requirements that apply to online gambling in key regulated markets worldwide, and that sits along our other forms of reports, insights, information, intelligence, and data that we house on the Vixio Regulatory Intelligence platform. If you'd like to know more, please visit vixio.com, reach out to us for more information. As I say, today we'll be giving you a guided tour of the technical compliance tool, but also sharing some insights that Roger and team and I have observed over the course of the past year since we first launched our technical compliance product. We will then move on to a demo that Roger is going to steer of our tool, and finally have an opportunity for Q&A. So those of you joining us, please do feel free to put a question in the question box and it will come to us. Unfortunately, we do have limited time, so if we don't get to your question, we'll probably only be able to answer a handful of them. We will intend to come back to them and come back to you directly to answer your question as you submit it. So please don't be shy. Put a question in, and if we don't speak to it immediately today, then yeah, you expect to hear from us one way or another. Jack, move us to the next slide, please. Okay, so technical compliance, and over the course of the past 12 plus months that Roger and our team at Vixio have been delving deep and closely specifically monitoring technical compliance requirements across the online gambling industry. I think it's fair to say that a few key trends and observations have really shone through during the course of that time. As you can see on the screen in front of you today, there's 6 of the industry's most beloved regulators, fair to say. But what they all have in common is that each of them have either adopted or updated their technical compliance regulations over the course of the past 12 or so months, or more recently than that. So technical compliance is absolutely critical to new market entry. You can see on the screen there that the UAE has published the technical standards that will apply to internet gaming and sports betting, as well as land-based gaming. But the industry has, I think, already picked up its own war stories from entering the newly regulated Brazilian market on January the 1st of this year, where operators and their suppliers had limited time, it's fair to say, to align themselves with key technical requirements that are set across different ordinances, and the challenge of not just operators obtaining licenses, but operators and their game providers, etc., obtaining the relevant certifications in time. Brazil makes for a very relevant and timely case study around how critical it is to have access to the right intelligence on technical compliance, but also be able to digest and respond to changing requirements is when it comes to new market entry. So that's new markets, but also you will see before you there, UK, Italy, Spain, Pennsylvania, could have picked more. Those are established and mature markets for online gambling. And so that's to say that it's not just in new markets where technical compliance is a challenge. Industry operators and suppliers also have to respond to changes in those jurisdictions where they've probably been in business for many months, many years, and the rules are changing, and sometimes changing in complicated ways. Some observations, I guess, over the course of the past year or so. I think, Roger, my sense is a key one. We are seeing a trend of upstream policy changes related to responsible gaming and consumer protections. They're really not just sort of changing headline policies, headline regulations for operators and suppliers. They are becoming much more technical in nature, and how you actually implement new responsible gambling standards that often requires a technical implementation. So even if we don't see technical standards per se being updated, as regulations change, that is requiring technical compliance teams at operators and suppliers to respond to them and come up with technical solutions to how they're going to implement them. Yeah, we've seen that in the UK with new stake limits and application of game design restrictions to table games as well as slots. Italy is I think, introducing default limits, customer limits, as part of its new concession regime. We have new KYC standards that come into effect in Pennsylvania, etc., etc. So that's definitely one key trend, I think, is and I think fair to say we expect to continue. Responsible gambling requirements flowing into technical compliance changes too. What else do we see? I think an observation that we have learned over the past year is sometimes you do have jurisdictions that have dedicated technical standards that are separate and apart from laws, regulations, etc. I think we've learned at Vixio and very much applying this to our work in this area. You can't limit your understanding of the technical compliance landscape to just the technical standards document that the regulator has adopted. I think we see many gotchas, I think is a word that you've used, Roger, a few times, but a gotcha, booby trap, whatever you want to say, but an important requirement that is very much technical in nature, may not even be in the technical standards. It could be in the headline regulation, in a guidance memo, on an FAQ page hidden by the regulator. So and that would be a learning and advice that we would share with the industry, is take a broad view of understanding technical compliance requirements and not just limit yourself to one core document. It's not as simple as that, unfortunately. Then a final observation I thought we'd share today is we have not really, I don't think there's a clear leader or a central template that is used in the industry to build technical compliance requirements. GLI 19, GLI 33, but GLI standards absolutely are a starting point or a central point of reference for many jurisdictions. Brazil and Peru, two relevant ones that clearly the regulators have taken GLI standards, but also built on top of them and customized as they've gone. See clear influence of the UK in Ontario as an example and beyond. So UK is certainly another reference point. And then Spain's technical requirements clearly informed those of Colombia and some of the jurisdictions in Argentina, among others. There's not really one central reference point there's a couple of reference points, and nearly all, if not all, jurisdictions customize and build on top rather than directly copy and paste. So that's certainly been a learning and something that we informs a lot of our work and analysis in this area. Jack, if you can move to the next slide. So in addition to our own analysis and observations of technical compliance, Vixio has also taken the temperature of the industry, get the views of both suppliers and operators of how they address and how they feel about technical compliance challenges. In a survey earlier this year, Vixio asked operators, specifically legal and compliance executives with online gambling operators, around technical compliance, and from over 50 responses, 88% of those representing operators agreed that it was challenging to keep up to speed with technical compliance requirements, and that they would benefit from additional resources to support in that area. However, operators are more divided on whether the biggest challenge when it came to technical compliance was accessing information to support market expansion or market entry versus staying on top of changing requirements in the markets that they're in, or a combination of both. You'll see on the screen there in front of you, Vixio just a few weeks ago published the results of our first ever supplier survey, where we asked a range of different questions of compliance executives with suppliers, so B2Bs, not B2Cs. That covered technical compliance as well as other areas. I'd encourage you to seek out more information of that on vixio.com if you're interested. But specifically related to technical compliance, we received over 100 responses from compliance representatives of B2B suppliers. And you can see there, 86% agreed with the statement that policymakers and regulators often establish regulatory requirements for online gambling without enough consideration of their impact from a technical and product compliance perspective. Similarly, 83% of suppliers said that technical compliance requirements were becoming increasingly diverse across different jurisdictions, and that they expected that trend to accelerate over the next 5 years. Jack, if you move to the next slide. So clearly, technical compliance is a big challenge, but what's the most challenging thing about it? That's where it's a bit more complicated and much more in the eye of the beholder. We asked operators which were their key areas of focus or concern when it came to technical compliance. They highlighted responsible gaming and KYC as areas that may not even really traditionally be technical compliance areas, but they highlighted RG and KYC as among the most critical, but basically said that almost everything was very important, or if not essential, when it came to understanding the technical compliance landscape from an operator perspective. And then again, as you'll see on the slide, it's a very similar story for suppliers. We asked, as part of the Vixio supplier survey, which of the following areas that you'll see is the biggest technical compliance challenge for online gambling suppliers. And you see a total split between those that believe that the frequency of new requirements and compliance changes is the biggest challenge, the cost and diversity of certification requirements, and other areas. So broad range of challenges for both operators and suppliers in this area. And that's without even sort of unpacking some of the more structural difficulties with staying on top of technical compliance that can be where to find the standards or regulations in the first place, standards not being available in English. It is referenced on the screen somewhat in front of you there, but whether regulators share key documents directly with suppliers or have to go through their operators, licensed operators to obtain that. So that's what we see, technical compliance being an increasingly challenging area for both operators and suppliers of online gambling. Jack, to the next slide. So it was with these challenges in mind that Vixio launched its technical compliance tool in September 2024. As you'll discover shortly, the initial focus of that product was to consolidate and curate all technical compliance requirements that apply in key regulated jurisdictions for online gambling, and provide easy access to the right answers for specific requirements, specifically in the areas for online casino game design and deployment, and for information security. Roger and team also monitor updates, all regulator sources and other sources to monitor for changes in real time, and so not just curating and consolidating those requirements on a one-time basis, they're being updated and maintained based on the monitoring of the area. Jack, move us on. We're very gratified by how well received the technical compliance tool has been. I think specifically so among game suppliers who have had access to the dedicated module that we launched for online casino games especially. But if you move us on again, Jack, what you will learn and what you'll see imminently from Roger is that we're dramatically expanding the scope of the technical compliance tool as of today, to not just cover 2 modules, InfoSec and online casino games, but take our technical compliance tool to 11. If that's to use a spinal tap reference there, but give a much more, essentially give a top-down 360-degree view of all technical compliance requirements in key online gambling jurisdictions, not just limited to those 2 areas of focus. So Roger will give us a tour through those momentarily. And finally, move us on, Jack. Which jurisdictions does Vixio cover? Cover 36 jurisdictions today. As you can see on the screen in front of you, that largely reflects the global iGaming regulatory map, so concentrated in Europe, parts of North America, Latin America, stretching into UAE and the Philippines. But there'll be more jurisdictions to follow over the coming months as we ramp up coverage and as the industry continues to evolve and we continue to see that spread of regulatory requirements across the globe. So that's introduction to Vixio, some learnings and observations of our first 12 months into specifically monitoring technical compliance requirements through our technical compliance tool. I will going to hand over the reins to you now, Roger, and you can provide us a guided tour of the expanded version of the technical compliance tool as launching today.
Thank you, James. As you can see, and as James has already said, we've expanded the tool. So we initially started with online casino and information security modules. We've actually added 9 more modules now. So we're covering everything from sportsbook, live casino, through to player account management and responsible gaming. So we've got a much broader coverage of requirements across jurisdictions. I'll just give you a quick example. So this is the live casino information, and you can see here we're using the similar data or the same data grid as we had previously, because that's been very well received by our customers. And as you can see, we've then, as we've done for some of the other modules or all the other modules, we've got it curated by groups of requirements and then each requirement. So where we've got a yes in a cell, we've got some information there that is the requirement about that. So if we click on that one for Brazil, this picks up the studio environment and security requirements that are mandated by the Brazilian regulator. And we pick up all of the relevant sections of the regulations. We also give you a link to the source document, the Portuguese, and we also give you a copy of the unofficial English translation, so you've got a copy of the regulations available to you in English. I'll just give you another quick example here, and this one's coming in from the sportsbook module. So again, as you can see, we have a vast array of requirements for sportsbook, and so we've covered those off for each of the jurisdictions to tell you what is what. So if we just have a quick look here, we can see what the odds format and display requirements are. So that will give you access to all of the requirements for the odds format and display that you've got to do for a customer. And you can see there that each of the jurisdictions has got its own particular requirements and nuances about the odds formats and display. If we have a look at the responsible gambling module, you can see here that the responsible gambling module again covers multiple RG requirements, whether that's player identification, self-exclusion, player limits, which is quite a detailed section, product design and technical safeguards, advertising and marketing controls, player interaction and monitoring, support and assistance, and transparency of information disclosure, as well as staff training and internal policies for responsible gaming. If we have a quick look at the age verification, we can see here that, again, we're pulling out all of the information about age verification for each of the jurisdictions, and we can see that it tells us exactly what we've got to do. It will tell us where we've got to comply and what the requirements are from a technical level, so that can be built into your RG as part of your onboarding process and ongoing monitoring for responsible gaming requirements. So if we have a look at the game platform, James was alluding before to some examples where we've had some challenges in terms of regulations. I've taken the liberty of opening one here for us to have a look at. Brazil has been interesting all year with some slightly moving targets. What we do cover is we cover all of the information regarding certification. So as part of that information, we tell you about the technical questions, and that gives some clarification about the requirements for branded reports that are required by third parties presenting games. So that gives you that. We've also on our site we've got a VIQ platform, which is a virtual machine that you can ask questions to. This allows you to ask a question. So if we ask it to tell me about branded reports in Brazil, it will give me the requirements for branded reports in Brazil. So this gives you a quick way to ask some questions about the data set that we've got, and it will give you insights into the information that's available.
And Roger, the VIQ AI assistant only asks questions about the requirements that Vixio has curated, right? It doesn't go off and find its own rogue answers. Is that fair to say?
No, it is covering the information that we've carefully curated. So it will give you the right answer. It won't give you somebody else's interpretation from a third-party website.
Okay. Yeah. And then I guess at a high level, with the product as we can see it in front of us here, users can select their module. So choose from the 11 modules of online casino, infosec, sportsbook, live casino, change management, reporting systems, game platform, base platform, player account management, KYC, AML, responsible gaming. So choose the module, and then from that point can choose the jurisdictions that they want to compare, and then we'll load up that comparative view that gives the quick, easy, never easy, but the quick answer as to whether requirements exist in against those different areas, and then by clicking on the cell, access the specific language of the requirement and a link to the source, so the law, regulation, technical standards where it came from.
Yes. One point I should raise, James, is you did say that we monitor the sources and we keep track of everything, so that if there are any changes. So as a Vixio customer, you can follow a jurisdiction. So in this case, I've got all of the jurisdictions followed, but I can unfollow a jurisdiction and a little alarm bell appears or disappears. If I'm following a jurisdiction, if there are any changes to that jurisdiction that we identify, you will get an email directly to you identifying what those changes are and what those implications are. And
you can look at all requirements for a jurisdiction, not just don't have to dig in and out.
Yes, absolutely. So you can look at all of the requirements for base platform for Brazil. So you can either scroll through those, or you can actually click on the relevant section and table of contents, and that will take you directly to all of those requirements.
Adapt to fish in 11 or 12 ordinances for the answer, given in one place for Brazil.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Well, thank you, Roger. I think we can go to some questions from our audience. Got one here. Does the expanded tool still cover online casino games and information security for the same range of jurisdictions previously?
I think that's quite an easy one to answer, James. Yes, absolutely. It does cover all of the jurisdictions that are already available.
Great. A second one to see here. Will the tool cover new markets when they're regulated? When do you anticipate that to be, and how quickly will those new markets be available? There's a couple of things there. Roger, you want to say yes and cover new markets?
Yes, absolutely yes for new markets. So the goal for myself and the team is that as soon as a new market is regulated and the regulations are published, or there's pre-published regulations available, we will endeavour to get those on the website within a week of those being published. So that is absolutely key for us to do that.
I think when we anticipate that to be is not always a clear answer. Something that we at Vixio monitor through our core intelligence platform as well. But we certainly anticipate new standards of regulations in the next couple of months in Alberta, as an example. Finland, I think Ireland might be a little bit later, probably into 2026, and New Zealand, there's still a legislative process got to play out, but those are four new jurisdictions that immediately come to mind for me that we're watching for, and incorporate that. And sounds like as soon as possible, once they're published, we'll integrate them into the technical compliance tool.
Absolutely.
I've got one more question here. This one's a bit more, less about tools than I guess our sense of it. But what's the most impactful technical compliance change you've seen over the course of the past year? I don't know if we want to take a stab.
Yeah, I think Brazil regulating. I think everybody's found that has been a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a moving target to start with, and there were some clarifications that were coming out. I think one of the key challenges, especially for games providers, was the requirement to show the pay table, especially at game startup. That caught a few people out and off guard, I think, to start with. The kind of change in process that they had at the beginning about getting games certified in time and making allowances there, as well as the kind of branded reports and clarification around those. I think in terms of other ones, I think, James, you probably alluded to this before, the UK and the change to the bet settings with the 2-tier requirements dependent on age. I think that's been quite a challenge for some players in the industry to be able to implement that change. And it also, although we knew about it for a little while, the actual implementation date came around quite quickly, with quite a kind of short timeline for that. So I think that was a challenge as well.
Yeah, sort of. One I recall that we flagged that was kind of easy to sneak under the radar was in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Connecticut updated technical standards for iGaming November, December last year. Added one requirement that online casino games could not use the word free to describe a game feature unless it was actually a free game. So free spins or free spins within a game couldn't describe them as free if there was a wager involved and stuff. And I think, to the best of my knowledge, that's a unique requirement, at least in the US market. And I think it's something that heard was impactful for those in Connecticut. So I guess that's a trend we see, right, is relatively narrow and specific requirements being updated don't scream that they're important necessarily unless you read them, think about them, and take them on. So these are things that get missed rather than being headline regulatory changes in the industry, but they make a big difference and they are a key compliance requirement. So I think that's part of the purpose of the tool, is to have a place where you can stay up to speed with these technical changes and be alerted to them and review them and analyze them and compare them, because they're don't always capture the headlines, as it were.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. We are unfortunately coming up for time, but Roger, thank you for the demo.
No problem.
Both of us would be delighted to share more information or answer further questions from our audience. We will get back to any additional questions that are being shared, and always delighted to speak more about our technical compliance tool. I'll hand it back to you, Jack.
That brings us to the end of today's session, and a big thank you to our speakers, James Kilsby and Roger Cowan, for sharing their expertise, and of course, to all of you for joining us. We hope you found the discussion valuable and that the insights into evolving compliance trends, risks, and tools will support you in navigating this complex space. If your question wasn't answered during the session, don't worry, a member of the Vixio team will be in touch shortly with a follow-up. As a reminder, you'll receive the full webinar recording directly in your inbox in the coming days. And if you'd like more information about the enhanced Vixio Technical Compliance Tool or have any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at info@vixio.com. If you're currently in Las Vegas for the G2E show, please be sure to visit the Vixio stand for a live demonstration of both the gambling compliance and the enhanced technical compliance tools. That's stand number 3313. And for more information on anything covered in today's webinar, visit vixio.com. On behalf of everyone here at Vixio, thank you again for taking part. We look forward to welcoming you to our future webinars, and take care and goodbye for now.